Virginia Secretary of Education, Ann Holton.
Welcome all. I'm so thrilled to be at this event, this virtual rally with hundreds of Virginia women Democrats all over the state. Thank you for joining us. I am the former Virginia Secretary of Education. I'm also just done serving a year as interim president of George Mason University, where I served as the first female president of our wonderful university. And I am a huge fan of the Biden-Harris team, and especially of Dr. Jill Biden. I am so thrilled to have her with us today. Today's rally is all about voting early. I personally am excited to vote on opening day, which is this Friday, September 18th. I have a plan to vote. I'm going to vote with a bunch of my neighbor women, and I think we're going to let my husband, Senator Tim Kaine, come along too, voting at the registrar's office in our local jurisdiction, Richmond City. Voting has been made so much easier this year in Virginia. 45-day window of early voting in person or absentee for anybody. You don't have to show a reason or an excuse. All you have to do is show up at your local registrar or request an absentee ballot and say, I want to vote. Isn't it wonderful to be part of the party that wants to make voting easier, that wants to make participation in our great democracy work more and more broadly? That's us, that's Democrats. I'm so thrilled today that on our call, we have with us some great Virginia women leaders who led the charge to make voting easier. They did that even before the pandemic, and then now with the pandemic have passed further changes quite recently to make voting even easier in Virginia. And I'm thrilled to have them with us today. We're going to start by hearing from Majority Leader Charnel Herring. Charnel was the first African-American woman elected from Northern Virginia to our General Assembly in 2009. She's gone on to rise in leadership roles and is now the majority leader, having helped deliver the Democrats to a majority role in that body. And it played a key role in getting the Democratic agenda passed this session. She's also a state and national leader championing women's health care, has been instrumental in huge victories on criminal justice reform in Virginia, serves as the chair of the all-important Virginia State Crime Commission. And on top of all of that, she's a Mason grad. I'm thrilled to have with us Charnel Herring.
Thank you so much, Secretary Holton. And thank you so much for everybody for joining us. I want you to know that I'm voting early for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they are going to build our country back better after this economic crisis. And that includes ensuring that we get closer to full inclusion and equality for women. They will also ensure that policy efforts to improve women's economic security will remain in the forefront. Biden will start by fighting for equal pay, investing in women-owned and small businesses, securing paid family leave, expanding access to education and training, and strengthening pay and benefits and careers disproportionately filled by women. The Biden-Harris ticket will expand women's access to health care. They will fight to protect and expand on the Affordable Health Care Act, which made it illegal for women to be discriminated against by the insurance companies. And the Biden-Harris plan includes offering all women the choice of a new public option. This will help women with health care disparities they face. In Virginia, Black women are 3 times as likely as white women to die as a result of childbirth. A Biden-Harris administration will also help women navigate work and families, tackling the issues that disproportionately impact them in the workplace, such as taking care of children or a loved one. In 2017, a study found that 89% of Virginia providers had a waiting list for infant and toddler care, and they will expand access to higher education and relieve student debt. Joe and Kamala recognize the critical role that HBCUs play in Virginia, with graduates of one of the Virginia's HBCUs making $968,000 more over their lifetime. Joe will provide access to community college without debt, make public colleges and universities tuition-free for families earning under $125,000, and invest over $70 billion in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, and double the all-important Pell Grant. He'll strengthen public service loan forgiveness and forgive undergraduate and tuition-related federal student debt from public colleges for people earning up to $125,000. And they will fight to end violence against women. This has been a driving force in Joe's career as he has been fighting back against abuses of power. It motivated him to author the Violence Against Women Act of 1994, and yesterday was actually the anniversary of that all-important act. Now, I say all this to you all because I'm excited, and I want you to vote early. I plan to vote early, and I'm so proud of Virginia and the work that we've done. Earlier this year, the governor signed my bill to allow the 45-day early voting period. Now, every Virginia registered voter is eligible to vote early as September 18th, and it goes through October 31st at your local vote locations, including the registrar's office. Now, there's some important dates I want you all to remember. If you would like to request a ballot to vote early by mail, make sure you request it by October 23rd. If you're planning to vote early in person, go to your local registrar's office as early as this Friday. But remember, in order to vote, you have to be a registered voter. So an important deadline, make sure you're registered by October 13th. Voting in this election is convenient, easy, and flexible. Please go to iwillvote.com today and check your voter registration status, find out your voting location and the hours and all the information you need to successfully cast your ballot this fall. I will repeat it again, iwillvote.com. See you at the polls.
All right. Thank you, Leader Herring, for those wonderful words. I'm now happy to introduce Speaker Eileen Fillerkorn, who I got to know first when she worked in my husband's gubernatorial administration, starting in 2006, has gone on to key leadership roles where she is now the Speaker, the top woman in the entire House of Delegates, the first woman in that role in 400 years. She helped elect a Democratic majority in 2019 and now has helped steer that majority to victories on myriad fronts: gun violence, LGBT issues, the environment, healthcare, voting, education, criminal justice reform, minimum wage, passing the ERA in Virginia, finally. And now, having done all of that in the regular session, is leading the General Assembly through a very, very challenging special COVID session dealing with budget, criminal justice reform, voting issues right now. She and Charnel, they're so busy, and we're so lucky to have them taking time out of their busy days to be with us. And I now give you Speaker Eileen Fillerkorn.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that incredible introduction, and for so much more, for your mentorship, for your friendship for so many years. And the successes that we're seeing now, the Commonwealth and our party, are in no small thanks to the tireless work of you and Senator Kaine. So thank you. And I'm so proud to be joined to welcome Dr. Biden today, in addition to you, with two other incredible women leaders, House Majority Leader Charnel Herring and Congresswoman Wexton. I'm so pleased to stand beside my friend Charnel as our House Majority Leader as we continue to fight for a more prosperous Virginia. And we could not be more committed to working to ensure that Congresswoman Wexton returns to Congress to continue to deliver for constituents in the 10th CD. But the reason we're here today is to welcome the next First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden, to Virginia. And I can say this, and I know everyone on this call and so many of you watching know, Dr. Biden is no stranger to the Commonwealth. During her time as Second Lady, she fought for Virginians, thousands of active military and veterans families every single day. She helped prepare Virginia's next generation as a professor at the Northern Virginia Community College. And I'd like to say that it's fair for us to consider Dr. Biden an honorary Virginian. And we're so lucky to have her here to help us today to get out the early vote for the Biden-Harris ticket, and all of our Democrats up and down the ballot. Speaking of voting early, during this 2020 General Assembly session, new majorities in the General Assembly passed landmark improvements to voter protection and ballot access in the Commonwealth, including, as you heard the leader mention, 45 days of no excuse absentee voting. Now you can vote early without needing any excuse. And in the past 2020 special session, we're in the middle of right now, we have built on that progress for Virginians' sacred voting rights from interference, whether from the pandemic or the Postmaster General. That bill, which we recently passed into law, number 1, secures prepaid postage for mail-in voting. Number 2, establishes ballot drop boxes for this November. And number 3, removes the witness requirement for mail-in ballots during the pandemic. So this Friday, September 18th, mail-in ballots will be sent to voters who have submitted a request, and in-person voting locations will be open across the Commonwealth. So please, please go to iwillvote.com and make your plan to vote today. Joe Biden is an amazing public servant, an amazing human being, a man who has battled through grief and personal tragedy to lift Americans up as a senator, and then for 8 years as Barack Obama's vice president. Joe Biden came to Virginia last year to help us take back the majority, and I am with him, and I know you all are too, 200% this year, as he works diligently every single day to remove the dark cloud currently over the White House. And Kamala Harris has also joined us on the trail. She joined us last year as well. And the vice president could not have picked a more experienced or energizing running mate. But in order to send Vice President Biden, Senator Harris, Dr. Biden to the White House and re-elect Senator Mark Warner, Congresswomen Wexton, Spanberger, Luria, and elect all of our Democratic candidates, we need everybody to vote and vote early. I'm planning on voting early. I hope you all will join me. There is nothing more vital to our democracy than the right to vote. All Virginians deserve to have their voices heard this November. And again, because of our Democratic victories in the General Assembly, voting is easier than ever. Let's show Dr. Biden how excited we are to have her with us today by going to iwillvote.com and making your plan to vote. Only 50 days to go. Let's do this.
Thank you, Eileen, for those inspiring words and for all you've done to help make voting easier for Virginians. I'm delighted now to introduce Representative Jennifer Wexton. Jennifer started her career as a prosecutor. She served, a personal favorite of mine, as an advocate for abused children in the abuse and neglect system. She served Virginia as a state senator in the legislature in Richmond, and now as a member of the United States House of Representatives from Virginia's 10th district. She has advocated in her work in Congress for health care, for gun safety, for federal worker protection, among other issues. And she is on the ballot this November, along with Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and all our other great Democratic candidates across the Commonwealth and nation. Jennifer, we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. It's wonderful to be here with you and with everybody at home for joining us. And also, it's great to see my former colleagues from the General Assembly, Eileen and Charnel. It's great to see you guys. And I am super, super excited to hear Dr. Jill Biden speak, because she is absolutely a role model. She is somebody who got her doctorate while she was raising a family, as my mom did. And she has always been looking out for kids, and she's an educator. And she also runs marathons, which is pretty rock star. So I'm kind of fangirling out a little bit, if you'll excuse me. But, Joe Biden talks about how this election is going to be a battle for the soul of America. And he's absolutely right. It is. And lucky for him, we here in Virginia have been on the front lines of this battle since 2017. Now, I know that after the 2016 election, a lot of people wanted to pull the covers over their head and pretend it didn't happen, but that's not what we did in Virginia. In Virginia, we got to work, and we had more women than ever stepping up to run, more women than ever stepping up to organize, to knock doors, to advocate, and we flipped 15 seats in the House of Delegates. That was unheard of, not to mention winning all 3 of our statewides by wide margins. And so we gave the country hope in 2017. And I think that was really a precursor for what we were going to see in 2018, when again, Virginia got it done. We flipped 3 congressional seats, all 3 of which were won by women, by me, by Elaine Luria, and by Abigail Spanberger, and flipped the congressional delegation from 7 Republicans and 4 Democrats to 7 Democrats and 4 Republicans. Huge upgrades for us in Virginia. And then, of course, that not to be outdone, 2019 in Virginia, we flipped both houses of the General Assembly. And as a result, we're seeing some fantastic legislation. all the expansion of voting rights that had been unthinkable just a few short years ago, gun violence prevention, raising the minimum wage, taking climate change seriously, so many great pieces of legislation as a result of our turning out and voting. And now here in Virginia, we have an opportunity to put an exclamation point at the end of that sentence by turning out the vote strong for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and all the Democratic candidates on the ticket. So we have all these great new options to vote. I'm going to vote early on Friday, in fact, the first opportunity I get. I want to be one of the first people in line there to vote. But you decide what works for you. You can go to iwillvote.com and learn everything about what you need to do to vote in Virginia. And I hope that you will turn out, and don't just do it yourselves. When you get off this call 20 or 30 of your new best friends and make sure that they go to iwillvote.com and develop their own plans to vote, because we have no reason not to vote early. This election is too important, and I don't just want to win, I want to crush. I want to run the score for all of the Democratic candidates. So thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Thank you to the wonderful women on this call, and let's go win this thing.
Mm-hmm. I love it, Jennifer. We're going to send the iwillvote.com web address to all of our buddies and get everybody out to vote early in Virginia. I now have the honor of introducing Dr. Joe Biden, who obviously needs no introduction to this crowd, but I do want to say we are so honored to have her be an educator here in Virginia. Her education career throughout her work life is extraordinary, but you know, I don't know if folks know this, but during the time when when her husband served as vice president during the Obama administration, for those 8 years, Jill served as a full-time instructor at Northern Virginia, professor at Northern Virginia Community College, teaching English, not to just anybody, but to the students who had the hardest time, refugees, English language learners, other students who struggled, the students who most needed a trampoline to life success through education. That's where Jill's passion is, and those are the students she served, grading papers at every moment. The jokes from all of us who campaigned with her about watching her grade papers in the motorcades and on airplanes are all true. She has been a leader in so many ways during her time, during Joe's vice presidency. She was a leader, particularly with Michelle, on military families and their spouses and helping address employment issues. She helped us, when I was Secretary of Education, make sure that Virginia was as hospitable as possible to military spouses. Unemployment, for instance, as teachers. I took a group of foster youth, young people aging out of foster care, to meet with her during her time, and she was so welcoming and loving to them. It's all about empathy and kindness and humility that she personally embodies, but that we as a party embody. She will be a fantastic FLOTUS. Let's elect Jill to be our next First Lady. And today, let's welcome her here to join this great group of Virginia women Democrats.
Oh, thanks, Ann. I love seeing you again. You know, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a school counselor in Virginia. And like so many educators I know, it was clear that she loves her job, that it is truly a calling. And while we were talking, she told me something I won't forget. She said, the two most important roles of my life are being a counselor and being a mom. But right now, I feel like I'm failing at both. And her anxiety, her fear that she is letting down her kids hit me hard because I've heard it so often. As a parent, you want to have all the answers for your kids. You want to know the right path and to be able to give them everything they need. You want to protect them most of all. But over these last 4 years, so many parents have told me that they have more questions than answers. How do I keep my family safe from this pandemic? What if a shooting happens at our school? What if I lose my job? How do I talk to my kids about bigotry and hate? And how do I tell them to be kind when our leaders don't live up to that same standard? Being a parent right now feels so fraught, doesn't it? And not just parents, all of us feel it. The chaos of this moment, the uncertainty, the magnitude of the loss that surrounds us, it can be easy to watch what is happening and feel so hopeless. But for the next 50 days, we don't have to watch what happens. We have to decide what happens. For the next 50 days, we have the power to choose what our future could be. And so for just a moment, I want to take you there. It's November 4th, the day after the election. You wake up and it's a beautiful morning like today. You pour yourself a cup of coffee and start to worry about getting your kids ready for school during this chaotic time. But you stop and smile because you realize that pretty soon there will be a nationwide strategy to make sure all schools are safe for our kids. You think about your neighbor who lost her job, the one who is struggling to pay her bills. And it hits you that our president has the resilience, the empathy, and the experience to actually help her. You go to check the news and you notice that your shoulders don't tense up. You're not dreading what's going on in the world, afraid of some impulsive foreign policy decision or executive order or tweet. Instead, you sit a little taller, knowing that our next commander-in-chief is a steady leader who will work for each and every American, someone who will bring out the best in us. You realize that you can't wait to call Joe Biden and Kamala Harris president and vice president. In fact, you feel proud. And for the first time in so long, you take a deep breath and feel light, feel hopeful. You know things are going to get so much better. That's the November 4th I want. I want to watch a blue wave sweep across this country and know that I was a part of it. Know that I called voters and made sure my family had a plan to get to the polls. I want to know that I did everything I could to feel that hope, to breathe freely again. And I know you do too. And that's why you're here. In this moment, we have so much power. We decide what comes next, especially women, because we know how to change hearts and minds. We know how to organize and invest in our communities, and we win elections. Women reelected Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2012. Women turned the U.S. House of Representatives blue in 2018, especially here in Virginia. And women are going to choose the course of this nation for years to come. 50 days. 50 days to make sure that our voices are heard. 50 days to make calls and talk to our friends. 50 days to fight like we've never fought before for this country we love so much. For our children, for our grandchildren, for ourselves. We've seen what can happen in 4 years, but this is our moment. This is our election. This is our nation, and we will choose our future together. Now let's get to work, Virginia. Love seeing you all.
Well, one of the frustrations of this format is that Jill can't hear all of us applauding and thanking her, but what wonderful words. I see that we've got literally hundreds of folks joining and many of you chiming in via the chat. I see Senator Louise Lucas and Senator Barbara Favola both chiming in. There may be others, other electeds. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you everybody for emphasizing IWillVote.com. And don't just do it for yourself, encourage others. Don't let COVID prevent us. That picture Jill paints of being able to relax our shoulders a little as we read the news going forward after this crazy administration ends is such a great goal to look forward to. Let's all do it together. When Dems show up, Dems win. Don't vote early in person. If you're going to vote by mail, do it but request your ballot way before the October 23rd deadline and get it in and get it done. Together, Virginia Democratic women will help carry this ticket and our great Congresswomen, Elaine Luria, Abigail Spanberger, Jennifer Wexton, and all of their great Democratic colleagues over the line on November 3rd. Thank you all and have a great rest of day.
Thanks.
Bye, y'all.